What's good, boy dudes and boy dudettes? And with the release of Avengers Endgame at the end of the month, I thought, why not just go back and review all the MCU movies from Iron Man to Captain Marvel? I'm gonna go back and look at all the movies and review each and every one of them in preparation for the big Endgame. And we're gonna kick it way back with the first movie that started it all, Iron Man from the year 2008. And Iron Man is an American superhero film based on the Marvel comic character of the same name, and it was produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Paramount Pictures at the time. The film is the first installment of the MCU and was directed by Jon Favreau, who also plays a character in the film called Happy Logan, um, from a screenplay by Mark Fergus, Hawk Ospity, Art McCrim, and Matt Holloway. The film stars Tony Stark as Robert Downey Jr. I'm not saying that literally. It is Tony Stark as Robert Downey Jr. or Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. And the film had been in production and development since like the 90s at Universal Pictures, 20th Century Fox, and New Line Cinema at various times before Marvel Studios reacquired the rights in 2006. Marvel put the project into production as its first self-financed film with Paramount Pictures as its distributor. Favreau signed on as director, aiming for a naturalistic feel, and chose to shoot the film primarily in California, rejecting the East Coast setting of the comics to differentiate the film from numerous superhero films set in New York. Film began in March 2007 and concluded in June of the same year. And during filming, actors were free to create their own dialogue because pre production was focused on the story and action. And rubber and metal versions of the armors created by Stan Winston's company were mixed with computer generated imagery to create the title character. And it premiered in Sydney on April 14th, 2008. My gosh, just think this time next week it would mark a 10-year anniversary of this film. That is crazy. And it was released on the US on May 2008. The film grossed over 585 million at the box office on a budget of 140 million, becoming the eighth highest grossing film of 2008. It received many praise from critics. And what is the film about essentially? Well, a billionaire industrialist and genius inventor Tony Stark is conducting weapon tests overseas, but terrorists kidnap him to force him to build a devastating weapon. Instead, he builds an armored suit and upends his captors. Returning to America, Stark refines the suit and uses it to combat crime and terrorism. And this film is a blast to watch. And when I'm talking about a blast, let's talk about the good stuff. And Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark is possibly the best casting choice I've ever seen in a movie. He is this cocky, arrogant, yet likable arsehole. This dude, he is he has great chemistry with everyone. Everyone he talks to in the film, they all just, I feel like everyone just gravitates towards this guy because there's just something about this dude. He's just so cool. Like, he just has great chemistry with everyone, even the villain as well. Um, he does go through an interesting character development. At first, he only seems to care about himself, and he only thinks about money, and he's just a playboy guy. And then, obviously, when he's on the brink of death, and he realizes that um, you know, his weapons were used to killing and hurting people around the world. He realizes that this isn't good. I need to do something about this, and he really does go through change. And even seeing how Tony Stark is up to Infinity War, he's a very different man now. He's a very different man, and he's just a great funny guy. He's got the best jokes, he's got the best scenes. This dude is awesome. um John Favreau was very attracted to Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, with Downey frequently conversing with the film's director Shane Black about the script and dialogue in Iron Man. And Dowling had an office next to Jon Favreau during pre-production, which allowed him greater involvement in the screenwriting process, especially adding humor to the film, which does actually even like say, you can tell in the film. And other characters who I loved. Terrence Howden as the original James Rhodey before he was replaced by Don Cheadle. He was okay, but I mean, like, we are also used to Don Cheadle now, and we can't see Rhodey as anyone else but Cheadle. But at the time, I don't know. He gave a different performance. He was more of a like he was more like even though Don Cheadle's character is the same, he was more of a best friend. Don Cheadle plays more like a brother, to Stark in the future films. But Terrence Howard's character was more like a best friend, They were close, but it didn't seem that close, But I thought he was great. Gwyneth Paltrow's Pepper Potts, the sassy assistant, and also the budding love interest for Tony Stark. And she's a very smart, level-handed, grounded woman, And yeah, she's funny. She has her good moments as well. Let's talk about like the villains of the show, and there are a few, and um, I don't know how much I should say. I mean, judging by the trailer, I think you all know who the villain is of the film, and it is, of course, you can easily see from the whatchamacallit, the trailers that the villain is Obadiah Stane. You freaking see it in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. And he was the original douchebag in a suit. He was that original douchebag in a suit who just wanted, his ultimate plan was, I don't know, government stuff. The boring villain plan. And Jeff Bridges does play Obadiah Stane well, but I would say out of the three douchebags in the suit in the Iron Man films, he was probably one of the worst. I'm not a fan of Obadiah Stane. He wasn't that great, but Jeff Bridges does give some interesting performance. Also, the visual effects are pretty damn amazing in this film. I freaking love some of the flying sequences with Iron Man flying in the air. And I love it when like Tony Stark's like setting up his Iron Man suit and the little bits and bobs just like kind of like transform, like in Transformers. It just looks so cool, It's every VFX nerd's dream just to see that, Also, cinematography is also really good. I don't know what else to talk about this film. I could talk about negatives and mixed aspects of the film, and if you can hear from like the movie, there's not much music, They didn't really have a soundtrack apart from that Back in Black song. There wasn't really much music in. It was very muted, laid back music, Not really like the soundtrack of like today's MCU. This is when MCU were like, new, and also the whole tone, it does feel dated, I have to admit, it's a it's a product of its time. It was 2008. It is pretty old, I'm not gonna lie, and it has aged, just some of like the pacing, there's a lot of slow moments in this film compared to like movies now where it's just really quickie snap, and not every single scene is funny. Not every single scene has jokes compared to like Ragnarok, which I have to admit I quite liked, I like the serious aspects of the film, And with that said, I'm going to give Iron Man 1, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I'm going to give it a B+, It was a great start to the MCU, but just certain things just didn't really stick out. And yeah, thank you for watching this review. Please like and share this video. Comment down below and tell me what's your favorite MCU film. What was your favorite part in Iron Man? With that said, thank you for watching. Boy, just signing out.